How's it going, creator family? I hope you all are doing well. We are back at it with a new creator this time. Koco Garcia, I believe is her name. And in this video, she's talking about the structured walk, how to stop pulling, which includes in parentheses, lunging, barking, now. So what drew me to her was, aside from, the title that a lot of people talk about, this subject, which is always good to know to see how different people teach it. What really drew me to her was in her thumbnail she has an Akita or Akita, the larger version of the Shiba Inu, their cousins. But anyway, she also has a little white fluffy dog. So I believe these are her dogs. So I just thought that would be interesting to check it out, see what she happens to say. All footage here being used under Fair Use Act for education, criticism, giving my point of view, trying to give a point of view to the dogs, what they might be thinking, from my experience and personal opinion, trying to give a voice to the dogs. So if you're ready to take a look at this video, then let's get started.
Tools you're using matter. So if you are struggling with your dog lunging, pulling, barking, any of that, and you're using a harness on your dog, that harness is designed to create drive in the dog. So when you pull back on that leash, the dog wants to go that way. So I know you're...
Okay, so I'm going to pause it right there. She's talking about tools are important with your dog. When she talks about the harness was never designed to create drive in your dog. Okay, your dog either has drive or they don't. I mean, and there could be, a lot of different levels of drive in a dog, on the spectrum. So the harness was never designed to start a behavior, cause a behavior, or prevent a behavior. It is just there to keep your dog, if you don't want to use a collar. It has more surface area over the body, around the shoulders and the chest area versus just across the throat. Can go around the back. So the harness was made as an alternative to using a regular collar around the dog's throat. The harness does not necessarily teach pulling, nor does it stop pulling unless you have a harness specifically designed to take that away from the dog, meaning it takes their forward momentum and uses it kind of against them, kind of twist them around. But that's where the front clip harnesses come from. But a dog learns to pull. It can learn to pull in any tool that you use. So it's a learned behavior. It is not necessarily that the tool itself is teaching anything or not teaching anything. So the harness does not create drive. I mean, could you use the argument that a dog that has drive can learn to pull in a harness? Sure, because the harness is not made to harm a dog or hurt a dog. It's not made, a prong collar is made to stop pulling. It is a tool used to stop pulling, and it uses correction and pain and, pain compliance and discomfort and all that. So
not meaning to, but you're actually creating the behavior that you don't want. Today I'm going to use the Hermspringer prong collar.
Yes. Okay. So she says that you may be teaching this dog, your dog may be learning, I think is what she said, your dog may be learning to pull. Hey, that's fine. I mean, of course, it's not fine that your dog learns to pull, but that's going to happen. Your dog learns to pull in a harness, just like they can still learn to pull and ignore the pain of a prong collar. They can learn to pull in on a shoestring around their neck or a really wide flat buckle collar, whatever. They can learn to pull in anything. So we have to teach them the behavior in any other tool. And, for me, I don't use prong collars like she just showed. I don't use choke chains or any kind of slip lead unless it's like an emergency situation. I don't use e-collars or anything like that. Star mark collars. I'll try to put some pictures up here, but I only like to teach a dog to use a harness. That's what I usually walk a dog in. Or I will also teach them to wear a regular collar and learn how to give to pressure that way. So I teach them to give to pressure if they have learned or, prevent them from learning to pull.
No, I know. They look like torture devices. And quite honestly,
they
there
are.
was a time where I thought the same thing you did. You've got to be kidding me. I would never put that on my dog. This particular...
But now she does. So, it's going to become the blind leading the blind, that she used to think, oh no, this is terrible. I used to think that too, and then I put it on my dog, and then I realized, yeah, it's just as terrible as it looks. It is metal. It's from a company, the Springer company, the Hermspringer is apparently, a better company than the ones you use in PetSmart. They're all bad. It's metal prongs digging into your dog's throat. Those can lead to thyroid issues, collapsed trachea, just overall spinal injuries or nerve damage. It's not good. It uses pain compliance to teach.
brand is called the Hermspringer. This is the only brand I will use, and this is the only brand most trainers are going to use. When this is fit correctly, it's simply designed to communicate with your dog, not to...
It doesn't communicate squat other than causing pain. This doesn't communicate anything. The human interacting with the dog will communicate something. They say it's communication. How is it communicating? How does it work? It works because it hurts. Because you see these little points here, they're going to say that there's even pressure around these little metal points, when really there may be 1 or 2 millimeters or centimeters, probably millimeters wide. So these little presses, if you were to put this on a balloon and pull it tight enough, the balloon would probably, after pulling it tight enough, would pop. Versus if you have a flat buckle collar around a balloon, unless you have a really taut balloon, it's probably not going to pop. Or if you put this around a tomato, okay, you squeeze it hard enough, it's going to leave little dents in the tomato, or even puncture it. This is tiny surface area compared to a wide, flat buckle collar or a harness. Has much more surface area than the prong collar. It's like laying on a bed of nails. If you're laying on 25 nails, it's going to hurt a lot more than laying on 25 million nails.
Squish your dog's neck and poke into it, freak your dog out to where that they don't want to do anything. No. All I'm
that is how it
doing
works, though.
Is saying, hey, pay attention. I'm over here.
No, it's not just as simple as, poking with your soft fingers. It's saying, hey, pay attention, as in jerk pain compliance. You start listening to me, who doesn't really have any skills to communicate to you otherwise because I rely on pain compliance, then I'll stop putting pain on you. That's it.
I implement, good job, that's what I'm looking for.
The dog doesn't care about that. Especially not Nikita, especially not this type of dog. Otherwise, then it's just, okay, slave-master relationship. I'm going to hurt you, and then I'll tell you, good dog. I'm not going to give you a treat or anything that you find to be rewarding. But because you're a dog and because I control everything in your life, that will become, it's like the Stockholm syndrome, like, oh, okay, well, you hurt me, but when you're not hurting me, it's good, so of course I'm going to be happy.
That's the training part. So I've got lots of videos on my channel that go over the...
If you want to go check her out, go check her out.
Exactly what to do, how to take it on and off. All of that stuff is covered.
I'm glad that she does talk about taking it on and off, putting it on, taking it off, because a lot of people will say, a lot of people just leave these on 24/7. They are training collars, only to be used during training times. I don't suggest using one. I don't ever recommend it, but if you want to, check out her channel. You're more than welcome to. You can go subscribe. You can dislike my video. That's fine.
So if you need more information, please go watch those videos first. I don't want to spend a ton of time on this. I want to jump right into the training and show you guys how to get that dog to walk at your side with slack in your leash.
So again, everybody, beautiful dog here. Anybody who uses this tool is going to rely on it. Everybody's always obsessed with walking by your side, the heel, the slack, the blah, blah, blah. Adonis, from the day I started with him to the day today that he passed, he has always been on a harness. After I learned to not listen to stupid trainers who use tools like this, because that made his pulling worse, believe it or not, and his behavior overall worse. Bless that little boy. He taught me so many good lessons. I love him so much, and he will forever be with me. And the future dog, I hope to have, whenever the time comes, when I can financially afford a dog, especially one as large as this, I would love to get an Akita, or Akita. I say the Japanese pronunciation, I'll probably butcher it anyway, but I would love to get one of these guys, girl, guy, whatever, and I can show you the whole process that you never need to use any of this. I will teach this dog, and any dog, the same way as I would with Adonis and any other breed.
Collar, high and snug.
Ouch.
This is all the leash.
Cutie pie.
Right there.
Oh, really? That's all the leash she needs is what? 3 inches? Wow. Lovely. Over-controlling. Poor dog. Just beautiful dog.
Have to hear that jingle. This is the feedback.
Ouch.
Everything from my wrist. All I'm going to do to get this dog to follow me is a
Ouch.
right turn and then a left turn. So
Ouch.
I'm going to make a right turn.
Lip licks, little white eyes. And everybody says, "Oh, this is a big, powerful dog. It's a stubborn breed. It's a Spitz." Then how? I'm gonna put some clips up here of Adonis walking on a nice loose leash. How did I get that? Without ever using this nonsense. This nonsense made his pulling worse. You don't need this. No breed of dog, no animal needs this. If you rely on this, or the trainer relies on this, it means the trainer is not skilled enough to be able to work in a harness that clips from the back, or maybe even the front, but it doesn't restrict the dog's movement. This just shows lack of skill.
He doesn't follow. I'm going to bump that leash.
Shows lack of skill and lack of appreciation for the animal and how smart they are. And they can easily learn. If you would learn, you don't need to use this.
Take a right turn. Expect my dog to follow. If she doesn't, this is where I give that feedback. And I bump the leash.
Ouch. It's not a bump. You pop her with the leash. It's not a heavy pop. You just expect your dog to follow you because you're so great. You don't have any respect for your dog. So why the hell should she respect you back? And notice she has the black prong collar so it hides in the dog's fur so people can't see it quite as well. Maybe she does it for looks.
Girl, if I have the perfect amount of leash.
Every time she corrects and pops, she teaches this dog to ignore that.
And I go to make my sharp right turn. If I hold on to my perfect amount and just turn,
you're dragging her with
my
you.
Dog with me. That is far too much tension. I don't want to do that.
The dog sat. See, she didn't even realize she was teaching the dog to sit. She held up on that tension. She made a little knot so it's a visual. Literally 3 inches maybe? Maybe 2.5? Wow, lovely. Even a short dog, we have to give them more leash because they're shorter. But, I have no problem with my dog being in front of me or wherever, as long as they're not pulling on me. This dog, you put them in any other tool and give them that leash, they're not going to know what to do with themselves. God forbid they actually have freedom from this control freak.
They're going to spiral and fight against you.
But she didn't realize that she was teaching the dog to sit by continuing to keep that pressure on that leash. She just focused on, her dog's not even focused on her. Her dog's looking at something over here. She's not listening to her dog. And yes, having constant tension on it teaches them to ignore you, and you're going to make them move into fight or flight. The reason why dogs pull in a harness, because 1, it doesn't hurt them when they pull on it, usually. And 2 is because it's called opposition reflex. They will still do it in a prong collar and anything else. If they feel tension on their body, especially around the throat, on a regular flat buckle collar, because that's not causing pain, unless it's tiny, the dog is going to move into that pressure. The reason this works is because they still feel the pressure and they want to move into it, but it hurts too much to move into it, so they stay right here. That's how it works. It doesn't help them to learn. It doesn't help them at all with their opposition reflex.
That perfect amount of leash goes away. I give
perfect
some
amount of
slack,
leash.
And I make the turn. My right turn. If she doesn't
Cute
follow,
little dog.
bump,
Ow.
Girl.
Wow, yeah, that good girl really counts so much. This poor dog.
That's a good girl. In the beginning.
Yeah, she's like, don't touch me, dude, unless you give me something good, that I care about. You're a good girl doesn't mean squat. I'm just here because I have to be. And she doesn't even realize that the camera here is also,
lots and lots
you're competing with your dog's attention because of the camera. Look at that white eye right there, that whale eye.
of encouragement.
It's a sign of anxiety.
If your dog isn't
See, she was just standing there and popping it. These people don't realize that they are teaching the dog to ignore this.
wanting to do this, if she isn't following you, if she's struggling, you use less pressure on your leash and more vocals to encourage your dog to come with you.
Yeah, God forbid, if your punishment doesn't work, you actually have to work and use positive reinforcement to get your dog to just follow you. Otherwise, you're dragging him around. So why don't you just get rid of this altogether?
Left turn. I'm going to bump the leash to give my dog a heads up that I'm turning.
Because, God forbid, you teach them on a verbal cue. Sorry, I'm so used to looking around behind me, thinking that Adonis is going to be coming in and sitting behind me and bugging me to go out for a walk, but he's not. He's a little ghosty Adonis. So, but you don't. God forbid you could just like stop and tell them, or stop. And so what if they get a few feet in front of you? And I mean, you could still use your leash, but like you don't need it on this. You don't need to bump them or pop them or any of that.
And turn right into her.
Why are you still turning into the dog? Why can't you just go around her? Like, I mean, you could teach the dog even an off cue. That's what I did with Adonis. I taught him off to where, he would move away from my body. I wouldn't ever just turn on a dime, swivel on a dime and bump him in the face. I would just tell him off as I was turning this way, and he would move his back end away from, this way, towards my body, and his head away from me.
I'm going to hold my arm and walk around her. I'm going to turn right.
Why can't you?
So this
Why?
is my left turn.
More disrespect to the dog.
Bump my leash right into her.
God, irritating.
Bump my leash right into her.
How irritating. Good girl. Yeah, she doesn't care. What was that break there? What happened between the break? Did the dog stop going with you? Did the dog try to jump and bite you? Did the dog... I don't know. I mean, Adonis, when he was tired of this nonsense, he would start to fight back. Like, this is just so controlling.
To get my dog to follow me. A right turn.
Yeah, you're literally dragging her now. This dog has no connection with you. This dog really doesn't want to be here. She's tired of this nonsense. Stop being so over-controlling. Literally, that's where she holds her hand until she's turning. That's like... It's just insane. Drag. This dog is so tired. In the face.
Some
irritating.
Call your figure 8. Throughout this video, you hear me talk about the perfect leash length.
Again, she's so loud with her hands. She doesn't realize that when she moves up and down, she pops this and that. She's telling the dog something. Remember, it's communication, right? So she's popping the dog. The dog is learning to ignore it. Otherwise, the dog is saying, hey, are you talking to me? Did I do something wrong? She's just correcting the dog constantly.
Uma, it's just a couple inches right
here.
She
doesn't even realize it. I want
to be able to quickly give her feedback with my wrist right
It's called a correction. It's not feedback.
If I give her this much leash, now when I need to go give her feedback, maybe it's to not sniff, or maybe it's to not look at that cat.
Yeah, because God forbid, again, whale eyes, this poor dog. Just so much control. Don't sniff. Don't look at that. Don't do this. Don't do that. Blah, 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 blah. Just over-controlling. Are there times when you don't want your dog to look at a cat or sniff or go after something? Absolutely. But you don't need to rely on this. If you have to use this, you're not really preparing your dog. You're just forcing them. And as soon as they're off the prong collar, guess what they're going to do? They're going to go to sniff. They're going to go after this. They're going to go after that. If they don't right away, then it's because you've punished them so much, so severely, they're afraid to do that. But once they realize you can't control them with pain, or you can't stop them the only way you know how, then they're going to say, you know what, see ya. Especially this kind of breed, which is nothing wrong with the breed at all. They're a very smart dog, and they're independent. They don't care about, they're not a Labrador. They don't care about pleasing the human. They're only there because they have to be, or because it's rewarding for them. This kind of dog, a Shiba, a Siberian Husky even, they will teach you respect for an animal. But a lot of people don't listen.
I go to give her feedback. Now I've got to get my whole arm
Again,
involved. She
corrected the dog. Something tickled the dog. The dog looks over here. But this whole time while she's correcting, showing these demonstrations, she's teaching the dog to ignore this correction. Or she's overcorrecting the dog for looking at a chair. So, okay, now I'm going to stop looking at the chair. I'm looking over here. Correction. Oh, I'm going to stop looking over here. I know how light she's touching, but it's still teaching this very sensitive dog, because dogs have very sensitive skin. She's still correcting the dog.
All of that right there is delayed communication. If I just hold right here.
And as the dog went to go sniff, she moved back a couple of centimeters.
Now my timing is so spot on, she's going to understand immediately what I'm asking. In the beginning.
No, she's not. She's not going to understand immediately what you're asking. She's going to avoid what she was previously doing and guess what you want next. And if she gets corrected for that, she's going to guess what you want next after that. Like, look at this beautiful little pit bull. Look at how stressed they already look.
His collar is up high.
Very rough handling. Very rough handling. Beautiful dog.
Kevin is a way more sensitive dog than the other two dogs I was working with. So if you overcorrect and your dog spirals out of control, the alligator roll, any of that, you're putting too much pressure on them.
Yes, so if you have any risk of that, don't use this tool. Don't use this method. Don't use the collar. I know, people see big old pitty. They are very sensitive. They have very sensitive skin. They have very sensitive, he doesn't have a bunch of fur somewhat possibly protecting his neck from this. And just, they're just a sensitive dog in general as just their emotional state.
He does not need that much pressure. So I'm going to do the same thing.
He doesn't need any pressure from you.
Bicycle. I'm dropping my arms to my
Again,
side.
she's still teaching him to ignore all this. You know, what I mean by that is if you have soft hands, Adonis would have reacted to all that, because to him, if I were jingling my hands around, he'd say, oh, you want me to sit? Are you trying to tell me something? What's going on? You know, because I don't pop him. But if I let the leash slide out, but I can stop it and I can reel it in. If I need to, you know, turn in front of him, I can shorten and move it behind me and then step in front of him. He gave to pressure very, very easily. And that took us a long time to get him used to it that easily.
Everything's relaxed. It's just going to come from right here. So
again, still teaching him to ignore it. There was a random cut. He kind of blinked there because she's irritating him or tickling him, or maybe it scratched him with this being around his neck.
Pressure and use my vocals to encourage him in the beginning. All I'm doing.
Then if you have to encourage him, why are you using this? This is just holding you back and confusing the dog.
Is that figure 8, back and forth, back and forth. I want him.
This cute little dog is just so checked out. I think she's Heaven is his name. His or her, I mean, it looks like a he, but Heaven is so cute.
Before we hit the real world and he gets distracted.
Okay, lip lick. She just went to go touch him and he gave a lip lick. So she thinks that her figure 8 here is going to transfer to the real world. Lovely. Unless you go into the real world and he gets distracted, what are you going to just do? Start doing figure 8s? To make him, you know, forget about what's in the world and just focus on you again? I mean, that's an option. I don't recommend it, but...
Hit my right turn. Bump the leash.
Ouch.
Let's go.
Ouch. Lip lick, lip lick.
Little tiny bumps with him. You can see him.
Ouch. You're still teaching. I mean, I say ouch just instinctively. It's just, discomfort. It's really not probably an ouch or severe hurting. But, he's probably not in severe pain. But still, the fact is that when I point that out with the ouch, it means that she's teaching him tug, tug. So he's going to learn to ignore that, or he feels it.
Fingertips. Right turn. Heel.
Ow.
Good boy.
So now she's teaching him a whole new concept with a whole new tool. And now she's throwing the verbal in there too. He doesn't... Look, if you have a dog that pulls, start with loose leash walking with them at the end of their 6-foot leash. Teach them that. Then you can move to heel, which is a very advanced behavior to teach your dog.
Good job, Kev.
Oh, is his name Kev? I thought she said his name was Heaven. My bad. But he's cute anyway.
Heel. Good boy. Heel. Little bump right there.
He doesn't need the bump. Like, if you gave him one piece of pepperoni or kibble or a piece of a Ritz cracker, whatever he likes now, and you were to turn and stop and move back this way and give him one more, you would probably have this behavior down pat. I mean, like, yeah, it takes a little bit more than that, more than just 2 treats, but the dog would be much more into you than just being drug around. The only reason he's here next to you is because of this collar.
Ah, buddy. Good job. Okay, here we go with our left turn. I'm going to bump and turn.
You don't need to bump. Ouch.
Good.
I'm stumbling over my own words. Lip lick there, which is, again, a sign of anxiety.
Your little dog, you want your collar high and snug. If this is your first time using a prong
collar, a little
collar
cute
on your dog,
hairy
it's
dog,
uncomfortable for you or your dog.
Her dog is tied over here on a prong collar, all the more dangerous. This dog already yelped. Did it hurt? What happened?
Or making a lot of noise. Use a slip lead. You just want your dog.
Okay, so we go from a tool that's too much correction to a slip lead, which shows we still don't know what the hell we're doing. In dog training, we rely on basically a noose that tightens around the dog's neck, and it causes pain that way. I mean, in this case, this one seems to be a little bit wider than what they typically use, what other trainers would typically use, but I don't agree with either of them. This dog, I mean, especially the smaller dogs, like, just teach him on a harness or teach him on his regular collar so long as it's nice and wide.
Dog to get used to the leash
Again,
pressure.
pop, pop, pop. Focused. No. So he's fighting, and she's saying no. He's fighting the prong collar, he's fighting the leash, and she's going to keep correcting. She's not taking his needs into account.
So here's my right turn. Give him a little leash. Oh, good boy. No, Joey. Good job.
So he reacted that way because she popped him.
Here's my right turn. No. With my leash biting. With him, no. Biting that leash.
You don't need to tell him no, because every time you tell him no, he's just going to learn to ignore the word no. And then he might even associate it with chewing on the leash. But right now, don't worry about heeling or walking. I would work on teaching him to ignore the leash. That would be the first behavior I teach. And you can do it a number of different ways. I'm not going to take a million, hours to explain it here, because I'll explain that in a whole different video, if you would like to see that. But that's where I would start, And then I would start with him just, walking on, of course for me, a harness, just walking on a loose leash. I'm not going to focus on, I wouldn't focus on the, I wouldn't really focus on walking or the heel. I would start with not biting on the leash, and then we could go for a nice short walk, so long as he's not biting on the leash. And then once he's, really good at not biting at the leash and he totally, that behavior becomes extinct, then we can work on more, advanced work like the heel.
Mad, I know he's just learning, but I changed my tone. My no is much different than good boy. No, and I'm bumping.
No, you're bumping him. He's not listening to the no. He's listening to, not the bump, the pop of the prong collar. That's what he's listening to. Your no will now mean nothing.
Leash. Right turn. Good boy. Joey, no.
Poor thing.
No.
He's irritated. He's agitated.
Boy.
Doesn't
Right
care
turn.
about your good boy.
Good boy. I'm keeping him on that left side. Oh, right turn. Oh, good boy.
What was that cut there? Why was there a random cut? Are you doing it for time?
Boy.
If I make a cut in my video, it's for time. That's why I have the long versions on Patreon and the shorter versions on YouTube.
Now here we go with the left turn. So I'm going to bump this
So
leash.
he's, again, all these dogs are teaching him to ignore it. All these dogs are really focused on something over here. So this is not the good environment, a good environment that I would start teaching in, because he's already distracted.
And use my
He's a
foot
cutie
to push
pie
him out
too.
of my way.
Oh, good, you can't knee him. You're going to shove him in the face with your foot.
Good boy. Here we go.
Then drag him along.
Good job. Here it goes again. I'm going to bump my leash.
You
Good
don't need to.
job.
Again, he's not paying attention to you at all. So you have to bump him because you don't have his attention. What I'm saying is that, that's the only way she knows how to teach him. You don't actually have to bump him. You could actually work in an environment where he's totally focused on you and he knows when you're going to stop and turn and all this and that. Would I be using treats for that method? Absolutely.
Here goes my left turn again. I'm going to bump
They
my
get
leash
one little check-in.
and turn right into him. Good.
So he kind of looked at her there. She didn't necessarily need to use her leg, but, God forbid, humans are so special, right, that the dog is the one that has to get out of our way versus us just moving a couple extra feet to get it, out of their way.
Good job. No. Okay, you guys, that's it. Drop a comment and let me know what video you...
Okay, so that's her video. If you want to go subscribe to her, you're more than welcome to. I'm not going to tell you to not go do that. I just don't recommend following these methods. That's why I'm pointing things out and trying to clear up the misinformation that might be out there, or, information that's kind of based off of opinion. This is from, when I give my opinion, it's from an educated standpoint. There's proof behind it. There's, scientific proof. There's research. There's my own experience. Experience isn't everything alone. So just be aware of the people that you listen to, even including myself. Thanks for watching, everyone. I do appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to take a look at my Patreon, there will be a link in the description below. You're more than welcome to check that out. It would help support the channel. But either way, I'm always going to have plenty of free information and free videos up here on YouTube. If you're just not interested in the whole Patreon thing, totally understand. In the meantime, feel free to subscribe, like, or dislike. You can leave a comment, tell me what you think of this video. And in the meantime, please give your critters some kind of loving for me. Do say hi for me. And until next time, stay positive.